Commander Zarvex stood on the bridge of the Hegemony scout vessel, staring at the blue-green planet on the main screen. His four eyes narrowed as he studied the readings coming in from the ship's sensors. Primitive technology, nuclear fission, early space exploration. No unified planetary government, he noted to his science officer. Perfect for colonization. The galactic hegemony had been expanding for millennia, incorporating thousands of worlds into their empire. Some joined willingly, others through conquest. Earth would be just another entry in their vast catalog of subjugated planets. Prepare a delegation, Zarvex ordered. Let's see if these humans can be reasonable. 3 days later, the arrival of the alien ships caused worldwide panic. Military forces mobilized, religious leaders proclaimed the end times, and governments struggled to maintain order. When the hegemony announced peaceful intentions and requested a meeting with Earth's leaders, the chaos subsided into nervous anticipation. The United Nations quickly assembled representatives from major powers. Among them were Captain Lisa Warren and Major John Miller, both decorated military officers chosen for their diplomatic experience and cool heads under pressure. "I don't like this one bit," Miller whispered to Warren as they waited in the UN Assembly Hall. "Why send a warship for a peaceful contact?" Warren nodded. "Standard intimidation tactic. They want us scared before negotiations even start." The hegemony delegation entered, led by a tall, four-eyed being with iridescent blue skin. Translator devices hummed as Zarvex addressed the assembly. "People of Earth, the galactic hegemony welcomes you. We represent the unified government of over 8,000 worlds across this galaxy. We offer you the opportunity to join our prosperous collective." The terms quickly followed. Earth would provide resources, minerals, water, biological specimens, and labor. In exchange, the hegemony would grant limited technological assistance and protection from cosmic threats. "This isn't an offer," Warren whispered. "It's a demand for surrender." The UN Secretary-General stood. "We appreciate your offer, but these terms seem one-sided. Surely we can discuss a more equitable arrangement." Zarvex's upper eyes blinked in what humans would later learn was an expression of contempt. "Equitable? You misunderstand. We are not negotiating. We are informing you of your place in the galactic order." Warren saw several diplomats bristle at the condescension. The Chinese representative leaned forward. "And if we decline your generous offer?" The alien commander smiled, revealing rows of small pointed teeth. "Others have declined. Their worlds remain productive members of the hegemony, though their original populations are significantly reduced." The room erupted in angry shouts. Security personnel moved closer to the alien delegation. Miller grabbed Warren's arm. "They're testing us, seeing how we react to threats." Zarvex raised his hands. "We will depart now and return in your 30 days. Prepare your answer." The delegation left without further discussion. In the emergency meeting that followed, Warren addressed the assembled leaders. "They underestimate us. They see our divisions and technological limitations, but miss our adaptability and determination." "What do you suggest, Captain?" asked the American president. "Give them the impression we're preparing to comply. Meanwhile, we unite our military forces and prepare for the fight of our lives." Miller nodded. "They expect surrender or disorganized resistance. We'll show them neither." For the next month, Earth prepared. Nations set aside old rivalries. Scientists worked around the clock studying the limited data gathered from the alien ship. Military forces coordinated global defense strategies. When the hegemony returned, they found Earth's leaders assembled with apparent resignation. Zarvex seemed pleased by this show of submission. The Secretary-General stepped forward. "We have considered your offer." "And?" prompted Zarvex. "Earth respectfully declines," came the reply. "We suggest you leave our solar system immediately." The alien commander's skin darkened with anger. "Then you have chosen extinction. So be it." As the delegation departed, Warren turned to Miller. "And so it begins. Neither of them could have predicted just how badly the galactic hegemony had miscalculated in threatening humanity. 1 week after the delegation departed, the hegemony returned. This time, they brought 5 warships that positioned themselves in Earth's orbit. Commander Zarvex opened communications with all major Earth networks simultaneously. People of Earth, your leaders have made a grave error. To demonstrate our power and the futility of resistance, observe. All screens showed a live feed of a small, uninhabited island in the Pacific. A beam of intense light shot down from one of the alien vessels. When it ended, the island was simply gone, leaving only boiling water and steam. You have 24 hours to reconsider. Next time, we will not choose an empty target. Emergency meetings convened worldwide. In a secure underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, military and political leaders gathered to form the United Earth Defense Council. General Frank Dawson, a veteran of multiple conflicts, took command of the Global Defense Force. They want us scared. They'd want us divided. We will be neither. Around the table sat representatives from every nation with significant military power. Old enemies now united against a common threat. What do we know about their technology? Asked Dawson. Dr. Olivia Martinez, head of Xenotechnology Research, stepped forward. Their shields appear impenetrable to our conventional weapons, but we've detected fluctuations when they fire their main weapons. Kevin Baker, a brilliant physicist who had been analyzing the sensor data, nodded eagerly. There's a 3-second window where the shields weaken to allow their energy weapons to fire. If we time our attacks just right, we might penetrate their defenses. Can we replicate any of their technology? Asked Captain Lisa Warren. Not yet, Dr. Martinez admitted, but we've been adapting our existing weapons. We're creating electromagnetic pulse devices that might disrupt their systems. Major John Miller, now leading a special operations division, outlined their strategy. We make it look like we're preparing to surrender. Meanwhile, we position our forces strategically and prepare a coordinated global strike. The plan was simple but risky. Earth would appear to comply with the hegemony's demands, while secretly preparing for war. Military assets were hidden underground or disguised as civilian structures. Nuclear weapons were ready but held in reserve due to the risk of planetary contamination. In space, the hegemony commanders observed Earth's activities with growing confidence. See how they scurry, Zarvek said to Admiral Krulvor. They dismantle military bases and gather resources, just as we demanded. Krulvor wasn't entirely convinced. Our scout ships report some unusual movements. Perhaps we should send a larger force. Zarvex dismissed the concern. Waste of resources. These humans barely have spacecraft that can reach their own moon. They pose no threat to the hegemony. We'll send a standard occupation force, more than sufficient for a primitive world. The scout ship captain tried again. Sir, I've observed unusual patterns in their communications and energy usage. Their military facilities appear abandoned, but we detect activity beneath them. Hiding like vermin, Zarvex laughed. Let them cower underground. It will make no difference. On Earth, final preparations were underway. Dr. Martins worked with weapons engineers to modify missiles and artillery shells with the new technology designed to exploit the shield weakness. Kevin Baker helped calibrate the timing systems needed for the coordinated attack. General Dawson addressed his global forces from the command center. The hegemony believes we are preparing to submit. Tomorrow, when their landing forces arrive, they will discover just how wrong they are. Across the world, soldiers and civilians alike prepared for the coming battle. Some prayed, others made peace with loved ones. All understood what was at stake. That night, as the alien ships moved into position for the landing, Captain Warren stared at the stars from a hidden bunker. They think this will be easy, she said quietly. They have no idea what humans are capable of when fighting for our home. The hegemony landing ships descended toward Earth with military precision. 6 major cities had been designated as landing zones, where the aliens expected to establish control centers. Commander Zarvex watched from orbit, satisfied by the apparent lack of resistance. "See, they have accepted their fate," he said to his officers. "Prepare the governance protocols." The first wave of alien troops disembarked near the outskirts of New York, Moscow, Beijing, London, New Delhi, and Rio de Janeiro. They moved in tight formations, weapons ready but not expecting much opposition. Earth's military forces appeared to be retreating from the landing zones, just as predicted. Major John Miller watched the alien troops march past his hidden position outside New York. His team was buried under camouflage materials that blocked thermal detection. He spoke quietly into his communication device. "Eagle's Nest, this is Cobra. Targets proceeding as expected. Awaiting your signal." In the underground command center, General Dawson monitored 6 large screens showing the alien landings. He waited until the enemy forces had moved fully into the prepared zones before giving the order. "All units, Operation Earthshield is a go." I repeat, Earthshield is a go. Around the world, the carefully orchestrated counterattack began. Instead of retreating, Earth's forces had set up ambush positions. They had deliberately vacated obvious military installations while establishing hidden firing positions. Outside New York, Captain Lisa Warren commanded a mechanized division that suddenly emerged from what appeared to be abandoned warehouses. Her forces struck the alien flank just as Miller's Special Forces team attacked from behind. "Remember the timing," Warren shouted over the communication channel. "Watch for their weapons discharge and hit them in the 3-second window." The aliens fired their energy weapons, and as predicted, their shields flickered momentarily. Human forces fired precisely in that moment of vulnerability. The first volley took down dozens of hegemony soldiers. Confused by the unexpected resistance, the alien forces tried to regroup. Their commanders had assured them that human weapons would be ineffective against their advanced armor and shields. Now they were taking significant casualties. Similar scenes played out at landing zones worldwide. In Beijing, modified artillery shells breached alien defenses. In Moscow, electromagnetic pulse weapons disabled hegemony communications. In Rio, human fighters attacked from underground tunnels that hadn't appeared on alien scans. From orbit, Commander Zarvex watched in disbelief as his invasion force faced serious opposition. "Impossible," he hissed. "How are their primitive weapons causing damage?" "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "they appear to be targeting our shield fluctuation points. They've discovered the vulnerability in our firing sequence." Zarvex slammed his fist on the console. "Send in the second wave. Call Admiral Axel Torith for reinforcements." On the ground, Dr. Martinez coordinated with frontline units, making real-time adjustments to their weapons based on battlefield data. "Their shields are adapting," she informed General Dawson. "We need to vary our attack pattern." Kevin Baker worked frantically at his station, reprogramming the timing sequences. "Updating now. They're shortening their weapon discharge time, but that's making their beams less powerful." The battle raged for hours. The hegemony forces, expecting an easy victory, found themselves fighting for survival. Their superior technology was offset by human ingenuity and the home field advantage. By nightfall, Earth forces had contained all 6 landing zones. The second wave of alien troops fared no better than the first. Admiral Axel Torith's reinforcement fleet was still days away. In the command center, General Dawson addressed the United Earth Defense Council. "We've won the first battle, but this is just the beginning. The hegemony will return with greater force." Major Miller's voice came through on the communication system. "Sir, we've captured several of their officers. We're beginning interrogation." Captain Warren added, "Their technology is now in our hands. We're learning more about their weaknesses." That night, Earth broadcast a unified message to the hegemony ships still in orbit. "This is humanity's home. We will defend it to our last breath. Your empire has never faced an enemy like us before." Admiral Axel Torith arrived with the full might of the galactic hegemony behind him. 50 warships, each larger than the initial invasion force, emerged from hyperspace and surrounded Earth. The Admiral stood on his command deck, 6 arms crossed in frustration as he reviewed the reports from the failed first assault. "Commander Zarvex, your incompetence is noted," he said coldly. "These humans should have been subjugated within hours." Zarvex bowed his head. "Admiral, they displayed unexpected adaptability. They identified our shield vulnerabilities almost immediately." "Irrelevant. No primitive species resists the hegemony." Sel Torth turned to his war council. "We will not make the same mistake twice. Begin orbital bombardment of all military targets." The attack began without warning. Energy beams sliced through Earth's atmosphere, targeting military bases, power plants, and communication centers. Earth's hastily constructed orbital defenses fired back, but they were overwhelmed by the sheer number of hegemony vessels. In the underground command center, General Dawson watched grimly as reports of destruction poured in. "Casualties?" he asked. "Lower than expected," reported his aide. "The early warning system gave most installations time to evacuate, but our surface capabilities are severely compromised." Dr. Martinez rushed in, carrying data tablets. "General, we've completed analysis of the captured alien technology. Their ground troops use a different shield frequency than their ships. We can exploit that." Meanwhile, Paul Garcia, a brilliant engineer who had been studying alien armor recovered from the battlefield, approached with his team. "Sir, we've developed something new." He held up what looked like an ordinary bullet. "Adaptive ammunition. It changes properties after leaving the barrel to penetrate alien armor." "How soon can we mass produce these?" Dawson asked. "We already have factories retooling. First batches will be ready in 48 hours. The hegemony landed ground forces once again, this time in massive numbers. The assault was brutal and methodical. Cities fell. Human forces retreated to prepare defensive positions underground and in remote areas. Major Miller led guerrilla operations behind enemy lines. His team struck alien supply lines and communication hubs before disappearing into the landscape. "They don't understand our terrain," he reported back. "They're struggling in forests, mountains, deserts, anywhere that doesn't match their standard invasion protocols." Captain Warren commanded one of the last remaining conventional defense forces outside Chicago. Her units had been pushed back repeatedly, but continued fighting with the new adaptive ammunition. "These aliens learned slowly," she told her troops as they prepared another ambush. "They keep using the same tactics even when those tactics fail." In orbiting laboratories, Dr. Martinez made another breakthrough. The hegemony had deployed biological weapons designed to weaken human resistance. She developed countermeasures within days, showing the aliens that human medical science could adapt as quickly as their military. "They expected us to be shocked by their bioweapons," she explained to General Dawson. "Instead, we're developing immunity faster than they can create new pathogens." 6 months into the war, stories began to spread among hegemony forces. Stories about human unpredictability, about soldiers who should have died but kept fighting, about weapons that shouldn't work against advanced technology yet somehow did. In his flagship, Admiral Sel Torth received increasingly concerning reports from his field commanders. "The humans adapt too quickly," one report stated. "They're already incorporating our own technology against us. Their resistance cells operate with unexpected coordination despite our communication jamming." Read another. Sel Torth called an emergency meeting of the Hegemony War Council. "This conquest is taking too long. We need to commit more resources." An elder counselor spoke up. "Admiral, we have never needed to commit more than 50 warships to subjugate a single planet. Perhaps we have underestimated these humans." "Impossible," the Admiral snapped. "They are primitive. They only discovered space travel in the last century. Yet they have destroyed 15 of our ships and killed thousands of our soldiers," the counselor noted. "Perhaps their worth is not measured by the age of their technology, but by their will to survive." Admiral Axel Torith had no answer to that uncomfortable truth. 6 months of brutal fighting had taken its toll on both sides. Earth lay partially in ruins, but humanity refused to surrender. In hidden facilities around the world, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to turn the tide. General Dawson gathered his top officers for the most ambitious operation yet. Operation Thunderstrike begins tomorrow, he announced, pointing to a holographic display of Admiral Axel Torith's flagship. We have one chance to strike at the heart of their command. Commander Eric Johnson, a former Special Forces operative who had proven himself in dozens of dangerous missions, studied the schematics. Sir, getting aboard that ship seems impossible. Impossible is where humans excel, Dawson replied. Dr. Martinez has reverse-engineered their teleportation technology. It's untested, but it's our only shot. That night, Johnson briefed his small team of volunteers. This is likely a one-way mission. Our objective is to infiltrate the flagship, gather intelligence from their central computer, and sabotage their communications array. The next morning, Dr. Martinez made final adjustments to the makeshift teleporter. The coordinates are locked on what we believe is a cargo bay. Once you're inside, you'll have approximately 15 minutes before their systems detect the breach. Johnson and his 5 team members stepped onto the platform. See you on the other side, he said as energy swirled around them. They materialized inside the alien vessel, immediately taking cover behind storage containers. 2 hegemony crew members looked up in shock, but were quickly subdued before they could sound an alarm. Move fast, Johnson ordered. Alice, Ben, secure our exit. Carol, with me to the command center. Dan and Eve, find the communications hub. Using stolen alien data tablets, they navigated through the massive ship. The design was confusing to human sensibilities, with corridors that seemed to defy conventional geometry. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Lisa Warren prepared for her part of Operation Thunderstrike. Through months of salvaging alien technology, humans had managed to retrofit 3 vessels with captured hegemony drive systems. All crews report ready, her executive officer informed her. Warren nodded. Then it's time to show the hegemony that humans can reach the stars too. The 3 ships launched from a hidden base in Antarctica, accelerating rapidly to escape Earth's gravity well. For the first time, human pilots experienced faster-than-light travel as they engaged the alien drives. Aboard the flagship, Commander Johnson and Carol reached the central computer core. Working quickly, they connected their devices and began downloading massive amounts of data. Star charts, weapon specifications, shield frequencies. We're getting everything, Carol whispered excitedly. In another section of the ship, Dan and Eve planted explosive devices throughout the communications system. Charges set, Dan reported. Detonation in 8 minutes. Admiral Axel Torith was in the middle of a War Council meeting when the alarms finally sounded. Intruders. Impossible, he roared. Lock down all sections. Johnson's team regrouped at their entry point, fighting through security forces that had discovered their presence. Download complete, Carol confirmed as they took cover behind alien equipment. Charges will detonate in 30 seconds, Dan added. Time to leave. The makeshift teleporter activated, pulling them back to Earth just as the explosives detonated. Throughout the hegemony fleet, communications went dark. Ship commanders could no longer coordinate their attacks. In the confusion, Captain Warren's small fleet struck. Using the shield frequencies obtained from Johnson's mission, they targeted key systems on multiple hegemony vessels. They never expected us to have ships in space, Warren said as her crew cheered the successful hits. The look on their faces must be priceless. Back at Earth Command, General Dawson received the data from Johnson's mission. Begin immediate distribution to all research teams, he ordered, and prepare our second wave of ships. Kevin Baker examined the star charts with growing excitement. Sir, this shows all their colony worlds and supply routes. We can take the fight to them now. The intelligence gained from Operation Thunderstrike changed everything. Within weeks, Earth forces had adapted more alien technology, building better weapons and defenses. Admiral Axel Torith watched in mounting horror as humans not only adopted hegemony technology, but improved upon it in ways his engineers claimed were impossible. "How can they advance so quickly?" he demanded. "It took us centuries to develop these systems." His science officer had no satisfactory answer. "They think differently, Admiral. They make intuitive leaps that our methodical approach doesn't allow for." The Hegemony Council chamber fell silent as Admiral Axel Torith delivered his report. 1 year into the war, humanity had not only survived, but had pushed beyond their solar system. The Grand Chamber, with its towering crystalline walls that had witnessed the subjugation of countless species, now held an atmosphere of unease. "The humans have captured 3 of our colony worlds," Axel Torith admitted. "They have allied with the Vermilion Collective and the Sirius Federation, species we thought thoroughly broken to our will." High Counselor Drazarem leaned forward, his ancient face creased with concern. "How is this possible? They were pre-FTL when we discovered them." "They adapt," the Admiral replied simply. "They take our technology and improve it within weeks. They fight in ways our tactical computers cannot predict." Reports from across hegemony space painted a disturbing picture. Human forces seemed to appear from nowhere, strike critical targets, and vanish before proper defenses could be mounted. Their ships, cobbled together from captured hegemony technology and their own innovations, didn't match any known design patterns. On the border world of Kellex Prime, a hegemony garrison commander received an emergency transmission from an outpost under attack. They came with no warning. The panicked officer reported as explosions echoed behind him. "Their weapons bypass our shields completely." The transmission cut off abruptly. The commander turned to his executive officer. "Send the alert to all nearby systems. If you detect human ships, do not engage. Retreat and report." "Sir," the officer seemed confused by the order. "You heard me," the commander said grimly. "If you see humans, run." This warning spread from system to system as more hegemony forces encountered Earth's rapidly expanding fleet. Captain Lisa Warren, now commanding Earth's first battle group from her flagship Defiance, received regular intelligence about these communications. "They're starting to fear us," she told her bridge crew as they prepared to liberate another occupied world. "Good. Fear will make them hesitate." The hegemony's war machine, undefeated for millennia, began to fracture. Rebellions erupted on a dozen worlds. Species long dominated by the Empire saw humanity's resistance as proof that the unbeatable could, in fact, be beaten. In a secure hegemony facility, intelligence officers analyzed intercepted human communications with growing alarm. "They employ psychological warfare extensively," one analyst reported. "They deliberately leave survivors to spread stories about their capabilities. Some reports are clearly exaggerated, yet our forces believe them." Another added, "They've been broadcasting messages to our subjugated worlds in native languages, promising freedom in exchange for assistance." In his private chambers, Admiral Axel Torith reviewed these reports with mounting dread. The war had expanded far beyond a simple planetary conquest. His career, once destined for the highest echelons of hegemony leadership, now faced ruin. A message arrived from Earth. General Frank Dawson, speaking as the representative of the newly formed Terran Alliance, offered terms. "The hegemony will recognize Earth and all allied worlds as sovereign and independent," Dawson stated. "A demilitarized zone will be established. Reparations will be paid for damage to Earth. In return, we will cease offensive operations and share certain technologies with the hegemony." The terms were shockingly lenient, given humanity's momentum. Axel Torith couldn't understand it. Why offer peace when they could continue conquering our worlds? He asked his advisors. An analyst who had spent years studying human behavior offered a theory. "They don't want empire. They wanted security and now justice for the attack on their homeworld. Once achieved, they seem willing to coexist." The Hegemony War Council debated the terms for days. Reports of defections and rebellions continued to arrive. 3 more colony worlds had fallen to human-led coalitions. Supply lines were stretched to breaking point. If we reject these terms, a counselor warned, we risk losing everything. The humans have become a rallying point for every species with grievances against us, and there are many. As the council deliberated, intercepted communications between hegemony ships revealed how deeply fear had penetrated their forces. Station 12 reports human vessels approaching. Evacuate immediately. Do not engage. But High Command ordered us to. I don't care. You've never seen what they do to ships that resist. If you see humans, you run. The once mighty Galactic hegemony faced an impossible choice: peace on humanity's terms, or a war they now feared they could not win. 3 years after the first hegemony ships appeared in Earth's skies, representatives from both sides gathered on neutral territory to sign the peace treaty. The chosen location was Proxima Centauri, the first exoplanet humanity had reached before the war. A simple dome structure housed the historic meeting. Admiral Lisa Warren, promoted after her successful campaigns, led the human delegation. Across the table sat High Counselor Drazarim and Admiral Axel Torith, their postures stiff with wounded pride. The Treaty of Proxima marks the end of hostilities between the Galactic hegemony and the Terran Alliance. Warren began. Both parties recognize the sovereignty of all signatories and agree to the established borders. As the formal words continued, Warren reflected on the incredible journey that had brought humanity to this moment. A species that had been confined to one planet now stood as equals with an empire spanning thousands of worlds. The hegemony representatives signed with their 6-fingered hands. High Counselor Drazarim paused before adding his mark. In all our history, no species has ever forced the hegemony to such terms, he admitted quietly. We gravely misjudged your kind. Warren nodded. A common mistake. Humans appear divided, chaotic, and primitive at first glance. Our strength lies in our adaptability and determination. Outside the dome, human and alien observers watched the ceremony via screens. Dr. Olivia Martinez stood beside Kevin Baker, both now leading the Terran Alliance Science Directorate. Their work transforming alien technology had been crucial to humanity's survival and ultimate victory. Did you ever imagine this outcome when they first arrived? Martinez asked. Baker shook his head. I was just hoping we'd survive the week. Now we're setting up research exchanges with 17 alien species. The treaty established more than peace. It created trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, and technological cooperation initiatives. The hegemony would pay reparations for the damage to Earth, while humanity would share some of their innovations that had so surprised their adversaries. As the ceremony concluded, General Frank Dawson addressed the gathered representatives. His once dark hair had turned completely gray during the war years, but his voice remained strong. This war cost all of us dearly. Millions of lives, both human and alien, were lost because of pride and misunderstanding. Let this treaty be more than just an end to fighting. Let it be the beginning of a new approach to galactic relations, one based on mutual respect rather than domination. In the following months, humanity continued to surprise their former enemies. Instead of establishing their own empire, they formed the Terran Alliance with species who had helped them during the conflict. This new coalition quickly became known for fair dealings and respect for cultural differences. Admiral Axel Torith, reassigned to oversee relations with the Alliance, found himself studying human history obsessively. Their planet's history is filled with terrible conflicts among themselves, he told his staff. They developed their military tactics fighting each other. While we were imposing uniformity across the galaxy, they were forging themselves through internal struggle. 6 months after the peace treaty, a massive memorial was unveiled in orbit around Earth. It contained the names of every being, human and alien, who had died in the conflict. It was humanity's idea, a gesture that confused many hegemony officials, but deeply moved the families of their fallen soldiers. Paul Garcia, whose adaptive ammunition had saved countless lives, visited the memorial with his family. "I wanted my children to understand both what we achieved and what it cost," he explained to a reporter. "We defeated an empire, but the victory worth celebrating is that we didn't become like them in the process." On the former hegemony throne world, the new Leadership Council reviewed their educational materials. The section on human beings had been completely rewritten. The species known as humans developed on Earth, a planet with extreme environmental variation. This diversity produced beings with exceptional adaptability and problem-solving abilities. Their social structures appear chaotic, but demonstrate remarkable resilience under pressure. First contact was mismanaged due to our failure to recognize their potential. The resulting conflict caused the greatest military defeat in hegemony history. Current status: independent and allied with multiple former hegemony worlds. Approach with respect and caution. Their friendship is valuable. Their enmity is to be avoided at all costs. Final assessment: when threatened, humans are the most dangerous species yet encountered. When befriended, they are among the most valuable allies. The greatest error in hegemony history was giving humans reason to fight.